Welcome back to the Dry Fasting Club. Today, we're going to be talking all about extended dry fasts. We'll dive into long fasts, why you might want to even do one, and how you would approach one if you were to start. From working out the timing windows to figuring out when to break it. It's no mystery that a lot of people that are coming to dry fasting for the first time are coming with what I call a desperate healing mindset, which means that they're here because they see it as a potential last resort. You need to be aware that dry fasting works best for relatively healthy people when it comes to maintaining health and even reversing their age. For these people, they don't need to worry about going on extended 5 days and up of dry fasting. They can focus on shorter durations and even something like a weekly 36-hour dry fast, which will do wonders to the body. This is a great strategy for recomping the body, losing weight, healing organs, and staying young. But that's not the topic for today. Today's topic is going to dive into long dry fasts. So what do I consider a long fast? I'm not here to discount the 3 to 5 day dry fasts. They are very powerful accomplishments. However, I consider things like 7 to 9 day dry fasts as those extremely long ones. I know there are some dry fasters, maybe even watching this video, that have gone further than 9 days, like myself. But these are potentially dangerous practices and they are still being explored. For example, going above 7 days on a dry fast puts you into a hypercortisol situation and should be done very rarely and treated with respect. We have this beautiful 5-day dry fasting study that shows its safety and health benefits, but we have to take into consideration many things on top of dehydration when we start thinking about going into these really long fasts. So today we'll talk about my experiences with going into the 9 to 11 day dry fasts, some theories and scientific reasoning behind things like therapeutic dehydration, and a bunch of tips and tricks, so strap yourselves in. Welcome to the Dry Fasting Club. Please remember that all fasting should be done with medical supervision. All information provided here should be viewed as informational only and should never supersede medical advice. When you are adding fasting or making lifestyle and dietary changes, please discuss with your medical professional first. Okay, so let's start all of this off with how you should work your way up to long dry fasts. Everyone always wants results as fast as possible, but you have to remember that your body has undergone wear and tear for a very long time. Reversing this damage through fasting can be done relatively quickly, but you still have to be realistic. It is not a pill that you can just pop and feel better. It's a gradual grind with continuous improvements. These improvements are all around fixes. Your blood, your organs, your metabolic pathways, your mitochondria. Imagine your body as an onion with multiple layers. You want to get to the core of the onion. That's your core health. But you have to peel away all the layers before you get there. Each fast peels away at it, but don't expect 1 or 2 fasts to get you to the core. For example, when you are sick or have underlying conditions, you can expect things like flare-ups of certain conditions during your refeeds, especially if you quit in the middle of a healing crisis. Aiming for a 5-day dry fast basically guarantees that you get to exit the fast in a safe window and after the completion, a full completion of an acidotic crisis. An acidotic crisis is when your body enters such a highly acidic state due to ketosis that it needs to activate new homeostasis mechanisms to regulate itself. It's theorized that you have to get through this full activation to harness the full power of the stem cell regeneration after a dry fast. If you want to aim for the second one, you'll have to complete somewhere between 7 to 9 days of dry fasting. The secondary one incorporates dehydration, acidity, and high cortisol levels. This is a bit of a deeper dive, and we could also talk about the correlation between heart rate variability and cortisol levels as seen in my HRV data here, but I'll leave that for you to dig in deeper. So completing the second acidotic crisis may speed up healing, but you can get there by doing multiple smaller fasts like 5-day ones. As you detox and heal, the pathogens as well as your own body can panic, and toxins can be varied. There can be bacterial endotoxins, heavy metals, other toxins inside of your fat cells, and even more. When they are released into your body, the burden is placed on your organs. And if you have a leaky gut, the detox can be even worse. Lucky for you, dry fasting repairs leaky gut. Common symptoms are bloating, gas, headaches, nausea, diarrhea, joint pain. Because of this, you might feel like your health is regressing. But if you are dry fasting correctly, all of these health benefits keep stacking up and you keep moving forward. This is why your first steps before attempting dry fasting would be to do a 3-day water fast, then follow up with something like a 36-hour dry fast, and then a 3-day dry fast. This is the quickest way that you should approach it. I've seen way too many people rush it, go too far, too fast, and suffer horrible consequences. There is such a thing as a detox overload, and it's often seen as an elevated heart rate or extreme side effects. I want to add that even though some people do go too fast, too soon, and end up suffering more than they need to, they almost always stabilize and improve their baseline in the end, so don't panic. There are a lot of intricacies that go into fasting, like knowing that women experience a higher release of ghrelin during fasting than men do. If you are relatively healthy and looking for weight loss or anti-aging, you can make huge improvements in your health by getting to 3 to 5 day dry fasts without having to worry about going further. I know this video is about the long dry fast, so let's jump into my experiences with a 9 to 11 day dry fast. I dry fasted 9 to 11 days a few times, but I don't think you need to do this for optimal health. Some people might want to fast track their healing, or they have some extremely deep-seated illness that they believe that extreme dehydration is the only way to actually get it healed. Although there is some truth to this, just working your way up to a 5-day dry fast is going to give you remarkable results. In a perfect world, you would master the 5-day dry fast and perform multiple of them before even considering going into deeper ones. Here are some pictures of my transformations throughout my fasting journey. They give you a bit of an idea of what can be achieved after multiple fasts. And this collage of 9 images is from a 9-day dry fast that I was recording. I was actually live streaming this 9-day dry fast. And I think I remember I didn't even leave the room once, which is not recommended. But I'm pretty sure this is the world's first 9-day dry fast that got live streamed, or the longest dry fast. When it came to this specific dry fast, I prepared for it by hydrating quite a bit and I juiced a lot before starting it. But on my shorter fasts, I usually make sure that I enter them in ketosis. That means coming from a low carb diet where I am already fat adapted and slightly dehydrated. This is a strategy I recommend to people that just don't have time to pursue longer dry fasts, but still want to get intense results. So using ketosis and a low carb diet basically can give you a 24 to 36 hour boost to your dry fast in terms of raw power of the ketosis and fat adaptation. But the reverse is also true. You may not be able to go as long of a dry fast if you come from this sort of scenario. Remember, dehydration is the key to the hyperosmotic stress, which triggers a lot of the miraculous healing benefits associated with dry fasting. But going too far too soon can also have negative consequences. Just like a seesaw, you need to balance the power of dehydration. No matter what, the first days of a dry fast are always the hardest. But depending on diet, some things change. No matter what, different days are harder for different people. For most, just the first days of a dry fast are the hardest barriers to break. You also need to be prepared for extreme dry mouth, which usually happens around days 3 to 5, but it can change for different people. And it's also very common to experience insomnia on a dry fast, and this usually occurs around day 5 and just gets progressively worse. But you can deal with this by trying to take as many naps as you possibly can, using cold therapy to fall asleep faster, and just doing a lot more mild exercises. And that segues us into important tips for extended dry fasting. When it comes to approaching problems on a dry fast, you need to be aware of certain signs and symptoms that basically tell you when it's time to stop. The most common one is making sure that your heart rate doesn't go to 120 and over. Now, keep in mind, you might hit 120 when you're doing some sort of activity or walking around, but you have to be able to sit down and rest for a few minutes and then check it. If it's still elevated, you know that this is a sign to stop the fast. This basically indicates that your blood is getting too thick and your body is starting to struggle with the detox. And this forces the heart to pump faster. If you have any of the contraindications to dry fasting, you should make sure that you have a professional monitoring your dry fasts. This relates to contraindications like heart issues, renal issues, blood issues, just to name a few. You should always walk as much as you can during a dry fast. And I would say with a minimum of at least 3 walks during the day. This is important for things like lymph clearing, blood flow, lysosome distribution, and just mental well-being. You actually burn more fat, and this translates to higher levels of metabolic water. You can also expect to see drastic weight loss during the first few days, but this usually stabilizes by day 3. If you stop seeing consistent urine amounts deeper into the fast, this is another sign that you might need to stop. Here's an example of my urine levels during a 9-day dry fast. Humidity is also important. If it's too humid or too dry, it can alter your results. Ideally, a 50% humidity is the perfect level. Cold plunges make it a soft dry fast, but the synergy with cooling your body, releasing endorphins, and cold shock proteins more than makes up for it. Just remember not to put anything in your mouth, especially after 60 hours of fasting, because this is where therapeutic levels of dehydration begin, and you can measure them by using something like a urine-specific gravity strip. Okay, so that was a lot of information, so let's wrap it up. Really long dry fasts are not always necessary, especially if you're not suffering with some sort of deep-seated illness. But there are some reasons why relatively healthy people push the limits and want to try extended dry fasting. Some of the reasons may be that they are looking to grow spiritually or get closer to God. Some people are looking to build discipline over their mind and body. Some are looking to speed up age reversal or simply to lose weight. I'm not here to tell you what's best for you, but I want you to remember that if you are relatively healthy, you don't have to push into these extreme dry fasts. You will be able to create miraculous results by sticking to a shorter dry fasting routine. Something like a 36-hour fast weekly or a 72-hour fast bi-weekly. If you stick to these, you won't even recognize yourself in a couple of months. The stem cells and growth hormone release will transform you. When it comes to diseases that are very hard to cure, you'll want to look at fasts that are longer than 3 days because that's where the therapeutic dehydration really kicks in. You can check out research papers on therapeutic dehydration and hyperosmotic stress so you can learn a little bit more about it. That's it for this episode. If you're planning on doing longer dry fasts, then I hope that you prepare correctly. And don't forget, the refeed is the most important part. Good luck. Thanks for sticking around. If you've dry fasted before, have any questions or requests for future topics, please leave them in the comments below. I always check the comments for inspiration and ideas. If you're looking for a chat or to set up your dry fasting plan, check out the dryfastingclub.com website and subscribe. You should also check out the Discord community where you can meet other new and experienced dry fasters. Remember, no two people are the same, so every fasting experience is unique. Thank you and good luck on your dry fasting journey.